race week. Finally, after 2 long years, the Super League Triathlon Championship Series is back this weekend in London, and we are locked in for 2 incredible triple mixes. The 5th time the format has cropped up since Super League's inception 4 years ago, and it's time to preview all the action we'll see at West India Quay in sunny London, or maybe not so sunny, on Sunday afternoon. Wherever you are around the world, you can catch all the racing live and free on the website and on YouTube, as well as a host of broadcasters around the globe. There are simply too many to mention, but all the details of where you can watch and what time it's on, where you are on superleaguetriathlon.com. Now, Super League legends and team captains Chris McCormack, Annie Emerson, and Tim Don are all here to preview everything like they are every single time we do the Short Shoot Show. How are we all feeling about our teams? That's the first question. There's been a couple of changes. We'll detail them in a minute. The stats, Macca, say that the Scorpions are going to score the most points across the weekend, but the stats can lie, but I know you're pretty confident.
Well, the funny thing was when we went through the draft and I unfortunately had last pick, and watching the other team managers pick their athletes, I couldn't believe the short memories that a lot of them have, and trying to understand how this team dynamic will work. It's about a good balance across both the genders. I think the Scorpions have that. We've got great female races. We have very, very strong male races. We're good across the 3 disciplines. That's why we're favourites on paper. But as we know in racing, anything can happen. But it all comes down to great team management, and they've got the best in the business.
He's a funny one.
What about the Eagles, Timmy? What about the Eagles? That's my question to you, because the Eagles, according to the stats, and I got the stats pack from our stats guru, Graham, it says the Eagles are lagging, mate. What do you think about that?
That's a bit of paper. I think I've got a young team, you see. On the men's side, I've got some young athletes who have improved, leaps and bounds. Max from Switzerland, 18 months ago, he wasn't racing at this level, nowhere near. Well, now he's the national Swiss 10K champion, top 10 at the Olympics, and he's hungry. You got Alex Yee jumping up there. So I think definitely on the men's side, I've got the youth and the experience, and the women's, Jess Learmoff, she's an Arena Games, triple winner, the first person ever to do that. When she sniffs the lead, early in the swim, she doesn't often give it up, and she's got some great firepower in the swim to back her up with Vicky. But I think, I'm really excited about the concept and the format of the teams. I think it's going to be a great addition, there's going to be races within races, especially come Malibu, when we're talking about, 2 or 3 points are going to make a big difference. And I think that's when the Eagles are going to swoop in and get those points.
No one's gotten behind this concept more than you have, Timothy. What about you, Annie? You've your team, the Cheetahs, you had first pick. You went with Sophie Caldwell for the women. Controversial, left Katie Zafiris on the table. How do you feel now, having had a couple of days to think about the balance of your team? And what are you going to be telling them just before this race? Because obviously we want to see, some athletes go for the jersey points in the first swim, bike and run, and that might mean they sacrifice themselves for the overall. Is that what you're going to be telling your team or select members of your team?
Well, first of all, just going back to what Macca said about short memories and stuff, I need to tell him that sport moves on and athletes move on and athletes age, and, and younger ones, come up through the ranks. And I think when I look at my team, that's exactly what I've got. I mean, perhaps a bit more experience in the men, but in the women, certainly with Sophie Caldwell, who was absolutely on fire in the Arena Games in Rotterdam. And I think she's grown in confidence with that 3rd place finish in Leeds, WTS, one of the toughest races there is on the course. So Macca, I've got to tell you, you might have the experience and the age in your team, but I'm not sure if you've got that hunger. It's something that you need in Super League. So no, my memory's good, Macca. It's good. But anyway, I think really happy with my team. Got a chance to chat with Sophie Caldwell yesterday. She's so excited and pumped for Super League, which is brilliant. And I think Maya Kingma is coming into this with a lot to prove. I think she's proved herself over the Olympic distance. She has a great swim bike combination, absolutely brilliant. And Leonie, what a run she's got, and she'll hang on for the swim for sure. Anna Godoy, a lot of talk about her. She has a strong history of triathlon in her family. She'll have a dad who was a great triathlete himself, right behind her. So what will I be telling them? First and foremost, get out there and race hard, and leave nothing out there. That's for sure. We know that's key in Super League racing. In the men's field, I didn't pick Vanson. I think he's a fantastic athlete, as is Katie Saphir is absolutely brilliant. But times are changing, right? I think Johnny Brownlee has sat out after the Olympics, and I think he's gone away and prepped really hard for this. He wants to be on top of the podium come Malibu. So I'm really happy with my team. Really happy.
Did I hear it right? Did Vince block you?
And he's just answered all the questions there.
I think Vince blocked you on social media once you didn't pick him as well, I heard.
No, Vince would be happy to be with Macca. Two old boys together and all that.
That's fair.
Yeah, two wily old boys. If they get their heads together, we all could be in bloody trouble, I tell you. I'll get the inside scoop from Taylor, you see.
That's very true, but we're going to wait to see how it's all going to play out. There's been a couple of changes we should outline. We're going to start with the women. We'll preview them in just a second. But Alice Beto, Macca comes in for Ilaria Zane. For you, that's just for London. We'll see Ilaria later on in the series. Also in the women, Gillian Sanders joined Super League, which is fantastic. She's going to go on to Michelle Dillon's Sharks team because we all agree that Michelle needs the help. So she's going to get a fifth woman on her team, but only the top three scores count. For the men's, Gordon Benson comes in for Martin Van Riel for London. Martin, unfortunately, contracted COVID, so he's just going to take some time to sort that out. Seth Ryder comes in for Yella Gaines for Tim's team, and we'll talk about the men in just a second. But women are first off at 11:30 local time on Sunday. Looks like it could rain on Sunday afternoon, which would be really interesting because it's a tricky little course. 300-metre swim in the North Dock towards West India Quay Tube Station and back again. The bike's 4 laps of a 1K course with some really quick sections, a roundabout and one dead turn, and we'll just see how the bike handling skills go on the streets of London in the wet, if it is indeed wet. The run's similar to the bike, slightly shorter, 2 laps of 800 metres. Spectating will be great. So if you're on the fence, if you're in London or if you're in the UK and you can get out there and you're on the fence about it, make sure you do. It's close to a bunch of tube stops. It's going to be fantastic to watch. It's set up so that you can see a lot of the race from wherever you are all around the course. And the triple mix is one of our absolute favourites. But look, Macca, I guess I'll give you a chance to say, look, if people are thinking of making the trip out on Sunday and they want to come and have a look at it, I mean, why should they? For those people who, maybe haven't seen a Super League live, it's a real experience, isn't it?
Oh, the entire Super League format is built for spectators. That was part of the DNA when we were planning this type of racing. It's allowing the spectator to be as close to the action as they possibly can be, which you don't have that opportunity in other events around the world. So it's very, very fast racing. It's very, very tight racing. You'll feel the energy. Even the on-course announcers, we have Michael Gilliam out of Bahrain, who's been doing this for many, many years. He brings a lot of energy to the event format. I say you're missing out if you don't see it. It's quite an amazing experience. And for our first time in London, we're super excited about it because that's where our headquarters are based now. So it's an event we're throwing a lot at. Post this COVID pandemic, it's just great to see racing back, and it'd be great to see big crowds like we used to at triathlon events.
Yeah, it would be lovely to see the crowds back and in force while I'm in lockdown here in Australia. At least the rest of you are going to be enjoying post-COVID life in the UK or whatever is going on over there. I have no idea. I haven't left the country in 2 years. The triple mix is a real favourite of ours, as we said. It's 3 stages: swim, bike, run, bike, swim, run, with a 2-minute gap in between the first 2 and then a 4-minute gap in between stage 2 and 3. The 2 opening stages are mass starts. And then the third stage is a pursuit start based on the combined times from stage 1 and stage 2. The short shoot is in effect. The 90-second rule is in effect. All of the stuff we know and love. And let's preview the women at 11:30 on Sunday. And let's start with Katie Zafiris, who was picked up by Ronnie and the Rhinos after being left on the table, which I still think is a highly controversial decision, Annie Emerson. Stats say she has a 48% chance of victory on Sunday, which I think is a little inflated, but she is right back in form after the Olympics, where she picked up a bronze and a silver, and the Collins Cup, where she sat on the feet of Lucy Charles-Barclay, which is no mean feat. Let's start, Tim, with you. Do we think Katie is back in the kind of form that has seen her so much success in Super League over the past few years?
She's definitely in form and she's going that way. I just think she's done a lot of travelling, and she did her first ever long distance race last weekend at the Collins Cup. She's flown to the Isle of Man to do some training. She's without her husband again. because he couldn't make the trip because he contracted COVID. So I don't think we're going to see a dominant performance from her this weekend, if I'm honest. I would love to see her because she's had a tough year and she really picked herself in the Olympics like amazingly to win two Olympic medals. But I think 48% is inflated way too much. Sorry, guys.
Agreed.
Yeah. I can agree with that. I think we all can. Macca, what about you? What do you think about Katie?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Tim. And looking at the teams from a manager's perspective, she's actually, with the utmost respect, not one of the athletes I'm targeting for this first race. I actually look at Tim's team with Taylor Spivey, who's coming into some really good form and has a lot to prove. And I think with Jess Learmonth in the swim, they'll set it up. I think the travel, as Tim said, will hurt Katie a bit. And Tommy not being around. Tommy is a big part of that team that brings a lot to that whole performance of Katie. So that will make things interesting for her. But you can't bet against her. We saw Cassandra Bogran, who sits on my team, come across to the series multiple times and apply pressure to Katie, and she always stood up and took her down in the end. She's an amazing performer. I think she'll learn as the series goes on again, but I'm not expecting big things out of her from London. So I agree, 48% chance of winning this. That's hyperinflated in my opinion.
Yeah, the stats don't tell the story really because they're looking back. They're not taking into account recent form as much as possible. And given the condensed few months that athletes have had in terms of travel and bubbles and 6 weekends of racing in a row, it really throws some question marks in. But Andy, let's talk about with you the Brits, and there's a huge contingent of them: Georgia Taylor-Brown, Jess Learmonth, Sophie Caldwell, all potential race winners. Beth Potter, of course, is in there. Vicky Holland, non-Stanford. Huge group at home. How strong will we see the Brits be? And I'll just let your bias just run wild on this one because we know how much you love talking up the Brits.
So I think that the Brits are going to be confident and they're going to be excited because, of course, they're racing on home soil. And just to reiterate what you said, it is going to be a brilliant event. And triathlon is hugely popular in this country. So I think that's going to really sort of both, lift their confidence hugely. I think if we look at the course, and you spoke about it, Will, about the fact that it is really technical, who's that going to suit? Well, I think, to be honest, Vicky's in good form. She's an experienced athlete, but is she going to like this bike course? I don't think she is. I think Jess Learmonth will thrive on it.
Whatever.
Jess Learmonth will love it. Technically she's so good, but Sophie Caldwell as well is really strong. She loves this style of racing, and she might not be the absolute best, but she's confident, I think, on a course like this. So I think she'll be really strong. Non as well is coming into really good form. Again, will she enjoy the bike course? I'm not sure. Georgia Taylor-Brown, we haven't spoken much about her because obviously she's been very quiet since winning that silver medal in Tokyo. But Georgia Taylor-Brown, I think Sophie Caldwell and Jess Learmonth are going to be the Brits that we're looking at. Beth as well, I don't want to leave her out as well. But, she is such an incredible athlete with a huge engine. But again, I think she might struggle on this bike course.
The bike course has also got some cobbles on as well. So if it's wet, that could play into not Baby's Head, Paris-Roubaix cobbles, but nevertheless, people see them and panic maybe.
How much does experience come into that with something like that? Because it wouldn't be that often that they'd come across anything like that in racing in normal terms. Some of them might never have ridden on that in a race.
No, I think in Europe, we used to see some courses, didn't we? Definitely, on the European Cup circuit, the Karlovy one in Czech Republic. That's loads of cobblestones. So the athletes that have raced there will remember that. And Stockholm used to be another one as well. But I think you're right. They tended to be longer circuits, and this being really short, they're going to be back over those cobblestones, before they know it. And I just keep my fingers crossed that it doesn't rain, because when you hit the cobblestones when it's wet, it's not a lot of fun.
Well, the forecast is rain, and the other difficult thing is where the cobbles are located on the course. It's coming off that fast section through transition, straight at, as you come. So you're hitting them at speed. First, you're hitting them coming out of transition slowly, so mounting the bike and going over the cobbles, but hitting those cobbles at speed and being in the wrong position, trying to position yourself correctly. Maybe you're making a pass. If it is slippery, it could be some serious carnage.
Get the cameras there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it, actually, if I'm being honest.
I tell you what.
I know it's like watching motor racing and hoping for a crash.
Just an update there, Will. I'm just on the very reliable BBC weather app, and it does actually say Sunday dry 23 degrees. So there you go, Macca. It's BBC. It's BBC. It's got to be right?
No, AccuWeather all the way. AccuWeather.
Accurate weather.
Well, you see,
AccuWeather says opposite.
Yeah.
Let's go with the BBC this time, shall we?
Well, I checked BBC like 4 hours
ago. Do
you
work for the BBC, Annie, or something?
Yeah.
Oh. And it's windy there. Like you get the gusts, 43 km/h gusts.
Right.
We love the weather, us Brits. We talk about it all day.
Well, we do.
I know. Let's move on. Let's move on from that. Let's talk about the French contingent. We touched on Cassandra. We've got Leonie Perriot here as well, who seems to be hitting some kind of form. Cassandra probably not in the dominant run form that she has been in the past, and we've seen that more over the 10K or Olympic distance racing. But when you come back to the shorter type racing, Macca, you know that she's going to deliver, and she's taken a triple mix from Katie Zafiris before.
Yeah, she has. This is sort of the distance for Cassandra. And, we expect a lot of things out of her going into the Olympics. I thought the French were the overwhelming favourites to take out that teams event. And I thought that position of Cassandra as the third racer was probably a wrong choice on the French's behalf. But she seemed to race okay at that. I think she's still learning that anxiety that comes with professional racing. She's still a very, very young racer and delicate in that sense. And the French tend to build their athletes along quite slowly. The talent is there. The ability to win this race is there. It's whether her head is there and it's in the right space. So within my team, we've got a very strong French contingent. And I think Vincent will bring a lot of confidence to that because he'll sort of lead our team from that perspective. And along with Emily, I think that will give her the confidence to perform very well. But on paper, she's the best swimmer in the field, capable of being the best swimmer, along with Jess and Sophie. Sophie's starts are remarkable, but Cassandra is able to swim with any of the athletes in the field. And my push as a team manager will be to try and capture those swim points. So I'll be working Cassandra to chase those points in that first race. I think on the bike, if it is raining, it's quite a technical course. She has shown that she can be technically quite astute. She's shown that in the French Grand Prix events. So she's very, very good there. She'll take Georgia from my team with her. And on the run, when she opens up that run stride, she's the quickest in the field. If she's in form, and we haven't been able to see with COVID that form that we saw at those events in Singapore and our old Super League events at Jersey as well. So we're going to know after London what we need to work on going into Munich and again into Jersey prior to Malibu. But I'm confident from what I'm hearing from the team that she's ready to go and looking forward to racing.
All right, let's talk the rest of the top 10. I mean, then there's people we've touched on, but we haven't really talked about, and they include Leonie, they include Maya Kingma, Rachel Klammer, we haven't talked about yet, Taylor Spivey. Now, all of them are top 10 contenders. Can we see any of them push for race wins? I mean, Klammer is always on the podium. In fact, she's been on the podium in 5 of 7 Super League events that she's been in, but she hasn't won one. She did win one race, I recall, in Jersey, but overall she hasn't won a round. So that's when we're doing 2 days. We're now doing 1 day racing. So can any of those names push up and take a race victory? Annie, let's start with you.
Well, you mentioned Rachel Klammer. So I think she really surprised me in the Olympics. I think she had a great race. I think she's had a really, really tough year, a really tough 18 months with obviously some real personal issues. And then Richard, having his heart condition. And I think she delivered brilliantly to get a top 5 in the Olympics. She had an outstanding run just behind Leonie. And you're absolutely right. She's one of those athletes that you go, oh God, where's Rachel? And then, she's out of it. And then all of a sudden she finds her way back into the race. She's made for Super League racing. And I really hope that she does have a good Super League series. And I think she will. I think she will have gone away and put in some really good work, got some real good confidence from that 5th place in the Olympics. And I think she'll be definitely shining in Super League. And Maya Kingma, and not just because she's in my team, I think she's going to be really interesting racing because she's great on the swim. She can be a little bit up and down on the swim. She can have a great swim and she can have a slightly dodgy one. I'm hoping she's going to bring her best swim to London and to the rest of the races. But she's great on the bike. She's very, very confident. She comes from Netherlands where it's always raining. She's probably used to riding on cobblestones, and I expect to see her out in front on the bike. And she can definitely hold her own over a mile, which is what we're going to see in London, 1.6 kilometre run.
Tim, any names you want to pull out?
Yeah, I think
we haven't spoken about.
Well, no, we're talking about Maya. Going back to Yokohama, Taylor Knibb, we know, has been biking just stronger and stronger. Taylor Knibb said she struggled to hold her wheel in and out the corners. On the straights, it was the other way round. Knibb was on the front driving the pace. So if she can bring that technical ability to this race and have a good swim, she's going to race well. Rachel Klammer, she's not going to win the first race. The second race is her best chance because there's no argy-bargy in the swim. She can get on the feet, sit there, ride the bike nice comfortably, and then hopefully, her weapon's her run. She's so light underfoot. She's got such a high turnover. She's been away from Richard for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I saw he's flown in from South Africa. So, if he's coming over, hopefully to support the event as well, I think that will just give her a bit of confidence. So, and I think most of the athletes coming off the Olympics, they'd have been training for a 2-hour event. They'd have had a week, 10 days chilling. They don't need to do that much work, just a specific speed work. So it's really fallen at a good time of the year for everyone who was in Tokyo. So I think we're going to see a similar form guide this weekend that we did in Tokyo.
Macca, what about you? We haven't spoken about names like Yuko Takahashi or Emily Moria, who's on your team, or Carolina Routier. I mean, there's plenty of other names there. Is there anyone who stands out for you? Emily's on your team, obviously.
I think Emily, but she's very, very new to Super League racing. What we've seen with our racing is you need to cut your teeth in it a little bit. And I like Yuko. Yuko Takahashi's always there, but she's a little bit like, as we're saying, she's always in the mix, but she's never at the front of the racing. But she'll be in that mixing. So it'll be interesting to see. What we are going to look at, which we haven't in the past, we're talking about the individual racing, is what the team managers, the instructions that are being given by team managers within this race. Are they going to chase the points on those individual disciplines? So that could change and disrupt the entire individual racing that's happening in the background. Suddenly Yuko's going for a swim preem to get those points, and she may fall back on the bike, which is disruptive in that forward momentum of the individual. So that's going to be the interesting play we see in race one. But I expect the athletes we've been talking about to be at the pointy end. I still think Taylor Spivey has a lot to prove, just following a lot of what she's doing in social media. She has a big swim. She has won a Super League race before in Mallorca. She's capable of doing that. And I just think she sees this as an opportunity to showcase potentially what the Americans missed out of by not selecting her for the Olympic Games. And she's going to come into this red hot.
Yeah, there's nothing like a chip on your shoulder to motivate you to go out there and cash in and be at the front. And Taylor Spivey certainly would still be feeling that. Let's talk about the men right now. They are off at just before 1 o'clock local time in London. And when we're talking contenders, we have to obviously talk off the top about Vincent Lewis, who no one except for Macca decided to pick right off the top. But favourite statistically to pick up all 3 jerseys. They reckon the stats say he'll be the fastest swimmer, which he often is. Well, he is these days at every race. And then be able to hold that on the bike and the run, and then win the race, and then just scoop all of the points. What kind of performance will we actually see, though, from Vince? Because what that doesn't take into account is the troubles he had in the lead up to the Olympics. Obviously, he had a 13th place in Tokyo. He followed it up with 6th in Edmonton. He didn't look like the Vince that we're used to seeing. So, Macca, do you have any doubts around where he's going to be in terms of his speed?
Yeah, look, he had a running injury going into the Olympics. We all know that. It's common knowledge now. He seems to be on the mend, on the better side of that injury and working through that. Well, we're talking about those individual disciplines and his strength across that. But you watch him in that Jersey event. He's technically so astute on the bike. I think he's technically the best bike rider, and he takes a lot more risks on a course like this than any other rider within this Super League racing, and that's what puts him at the pointy end all the time. He sets it up with a big swim. As I said, I was shocked that he was overlooked by many of the other team managers. As Annie said, he's getting old potentially, but like a fine French wine, it only gets better with time. And
Sophie's not corked.
I just can't wait to see him perform. I think we're going to see the better end of Vince, I think the Olympics, just where it was positioned within his injury, wasn't the best timing. Unfortunately, that is part and parcel of racing. But we're starting to move away from that, we're moving into the distances that he's shown he's exceptional at, and the technicality of this course will really, really suit him. And from our perspective, we'll be pushing from the beginning to try and capture those points in the swim, which he's capable of doing. And he's a front racer. Once you put him on the front with a sniff of victory, he's very, very difficult to beat. And I expect to see big things out of Vincent Luis.
Well, it won't be hard for you guys to motivate the swim and bike points, because that's where the short shoots are going to be decided as well. So as opposed to splits or in different ways, it's going to be over the mountain line after the swim. Not only will you pick up the 5 jersey points, but you'll also pick up a short shoot, and the same for the bike. So it's not going to be hard to motivate your athletes to go out there and win those points, because they know they're going to have a short shoot, which has to be taken in the stage 3 run, which is going to be extremely important when it comes to a pursuit start in the triple mix. Who pips Vince, though? I mean, who takes that mantle? Who wears pink when we get to Munich, if not Vincent Luis? And for me, the name that obviously floats up to the top is Johnny Brownlee. He's back in killer form. He's sorted out a bunch of nutrition issues. And who picked him? It escapes me right now. Who was it? Ronnie?
Cheaters.
Who's got Johnny? No,
Cheaters.
Annie, you've got Johnny.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. The cheaters. The absolute cheaters. Right. So how do you feel about Johnny, Annie?
Okay. I think you're right about Vince. I think we're going to see good Vince coming back. He loves Super League racing, but and he's a threat on the swim, and he'll change the race from there. But Johnny Brownlee, you can always count on him in the swim. I just think, and we've spoken about it on here before, but his relay leg in Tokyo was absolutely, to use one of Macca's word, magnificent. It was absolutely beautiful to watch. And it was great to see a really confident Johnny. And I think to add that gold medal to his silver and bronze meant a huge amount to him. And I think he's probably just been away and he's had a good chance to rest. He sat out the last 2 World Triathlon Series races. And I imagine he's been highly focused on prepping for Super League. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Johnny Brownlee race big time. And I think it'd be a threat to Vince. And I think you're right, Macca. I think Vince is incredible technically to watch him. He's so brave. He's sort of, how he rides a bike is not the most beautiful to watch, but he's so accurate in everything he does. But I think Johnny will go with him.
Yeah, it'd be hard to argue with that. I have heard that he's completely changed his nutrition, Johnny Brownlee, in the last few months, and we're seeing that reflected in his results. So long may it continue. It seems a long time ago that he was standing on podiums 42 times in a row.
He stopped drinking Yorkshire tea. That's the secret. Now he's on to coffee. He's having double macchiatos with Jan. That's the secret.
That's also what keeps me going during the day as well, but I'm not running anywhere. I'm just trying to look after kids. I get it. Now, who pips these two? I mean, we know Vince has been at the front for the entire time Super League since it was basically created. Johnny has been there or thereabouts. We see a couple of guys, and I guess in my head I put them in the same box at the moment as Alex Yee and Hayden Wilde, and maybe that's because I spent the entire Edmonton race watching them run together. But these two guys are coming on in leaps and bounds, and we know the stories that are attached to them and how much they've done. And obviously, they both won medals at the Olympic Games. So these two blokes, I mean, what do we say about them? What will we be saying about Alex Yee and Hayden Wilde at the end of Malibu in terms of the impact they had? And Macca, let's start with you.
Well, they're the other two you've picked correctly. I throw probably an informed Jake Birtwistle in that mix. We haven't seen a lot from Birtwistle, but those 3 younger athletes, and in particular Alex, who's a gold and silver medalist now from the Olympic Games. He's no longer a developing talent. He's arrived in a big way. And Hayden Wilde, who is so spontaneous in the way he races. That's what makes Hayden so exciting. He's not scared to go to the front and make a move. He's not thinking about the next discipline. He's about putting himself in the right position to win a race. And that type of mindset wins Super League racing. So I would not be surprised if those athletes are very, very close to the front, taking down points and are capable of taking down Vincent Luis. And we'll find that. We'll know the form guide, as we've talked about a lot before, post-London. We're going to sit there going, the scene will be set and we'll be talking potentially about different athletes. But I do expect to see Alex and Hayden in that mix. But I asked the question too, if you're Alex Yee and you've just won a gold and silver medal and you've come back home and, I know what I would have been doing. I'd have been stepping out with a friend and going, woohoo, my life's changed. But whether he's done that, I don't know. And that'll be interesting to see what the difference between that post-Olympic time and Super League start has been. I know for Hayden, he's been racing very, very hard and training hard. And I look at Jake Birtwistle, who's back into training very, very hard. I followed a lot of these guys on social media. So it's just from a distance you're seeing it, and people tend to show their life through filters on social media, but he looks to be searching for that form that has delivered him podium finishes in the WTS series. And with that big run, he is dead set capable of winning the Super League series. And I'm going to throw another name out there in Matt Hauser, who is in my team, who is an incredible relay racer. Big swim, great over the mile, a bigger athlete. He may struggle on the technical bike course, but those are the athletes I see that could potentially mix this up. Martin Van Riel, who's been a bit sick and won't be in our first race. He was another athlete I was looking at to do very, very well. So don't expect it to be a totally French affair, and do look for Alex Shee, Hayden Wild, Matt Hauser, Jake Birtwistle to be up the pointy end.
What about you, Tim? Obviously, I mean, you know Alex well. Would he be a guy? He doesn't strike me as a guy who spent the last 3 weeks partying since the Olympics. I feel like he would have had a light beer, had an early night, and then got back into it the next morning.
I don't think he's legally allowed to drink yet, so he can't go out. No, he missed the first race in Montreal, and he went to Edmonton, and I think he was a bit disappointed with himself there, which, it would have been great to see him, make that lead group or even the second group. But I think that would have made him, instead of turning to the bottle, he'd have turned to the training. And he's training in such a nice group of athletes. They're all kind of like, mid-20s. They're all on the verge of kind of making it into WTS starts here in Loughborough. So no, I think he'll be a home race for him. His family will be there. Ron, his old man, and the whole Crystal Palace Triathlon crew will be down, and he'll want to be doing what he loves best, and that's really going hard. I think the first race is going to be important for him. He's got to have a good run to get a good start for the second race. And Hayden, yeah, he's so kind of like charismatic and flamboyant. Not so much maybe in his performance yet, but he reminds me of Pre, He just says it how it is. He just gets out there and he races hard. And if you want to beat him, you're going to have to chew off your arm. And that's the kind of, attitude that these young guys are coming with. And Super League, yeah, you can't sit back and wait for the next race. You've got to take everything in the moment, in the second. So, yeah, those young guys, I'm gutted for Martin Van Riel, lovely fella. And, yeah, he hit some rich form at the WTS Grand Final. But he'll be back in Munich.
Yeah, we're going to miss the Belgians in Van Riel and Jelle Gaines as well, unfortunately. But we welcome Gordon Benson in, so another one for the UK tribe. Annie, before we move on, I mean, I'm sure you've been commentating the WTS series, so you would have watched these guys closely, and to see Hayden, especially after the time he got stuck in New Zealand and where he nearly qualified for the Olympics in the 5K, and then he came in and he raced Leeds and he raced it so hard with no expectations. And then also for him to run with Alex G, those two blokes are going to make a very big impression, I think, across the next month.
Well, I think you're right to a degree, but both of them have still got work to do on their swim. And, it is only 300 metres, so they will hang on. We saw Alex G swim really well in the early rounds of the Arena Games, but I think what happens when you're a weaker swimmer, you have it together for the first swim, and as you get more tired, then the swim starts to falter. So I think that Hayden and Alex are both in the same camp there. They both know that, that is their weak link. But you're absolutely right. Alex G's going to be on home soil and he's going to be loving it. And he's going to want to desperately deliver for his family and friends and fans, because there will be so many people down there to watch the recently crowned silver Olympic medalist. And Hayden Wild, the guy is has wise beyond his years. He's 23, but he's just so confident in a lovely way, and he wants it so much. I think that's what you see with Hayden Wild. He's desperate for success because he loves what he does. great on the bike. I mean, in Edmonton, watching him try to chase down the lead group was absolutely brilliant. I love to watch him race because he's brave and he gets out there and he bloody throws it all at it. I can't stand seeing an athlete that doesn't work when you're, a minute and a half down. What's the point in being in a race? But Hayden threw everything at it. And they both run incredibly well. Hayden, I mean, we know what he achieved in New Zealand on the track over the winter months. Absolutely brilliant. I think his run's perhaps not quite as sharp as he would want it to be at the moment. But that said, he's another guy that won't have been, out on the piss after his bronze medal. He would have been working hard and prepping for Super League. So, I think there will be shaky moments for both athletes in the swim, but I expect to see them deliver some outstanding races as well.
I don't know. I've seen Hayden at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
But the other thing about Hayden, which we don't give him a lot of credit for.
You were there too, Macca.
No, he likes to time Hayden. But he's so quick through, because of his weak swim or his weaker swim, Hayden has this tendency to move very, very quickly through transition. So he makes up a lot of gaps in those dormant parts where a lot of the big swimmers sort of get out of the water and they're leading and they take their time. Where you see Hayden, and I think he actually trumps Alex in that place where he moves a lot more quickly in that transition area. So that makes up a lot of spacing. He's so technically good on the bike. If Alex can tag that, Hayden will get to the front of this racing. I don't care how bad his swim is, he will get to the front. He's that type of racer.
It reminds me of Jersey, I want to say 2018, where Hayden Wild we didn't know that much about, and he had that sprint finish with Mario Mola and ended up finishing 6th. And the two of them sprinting down the straight there at the end into the chute onto the carpet. And it's funny now, 3 years goes past. At that point, it was an unknown guy and the reigning world champion. I think he was still reigning world champion then. And then now we're talking all about Hayden Wild. We're not even mentioning Mario Mola, who is on your team, Macca, and he's just gone under the radar completely, finished in the top 10 in Tokyo. But we haven't talked about him like we'd expect to talk about him. And why is that? And what's he going to do you think?
I think over the Super League racing, he doesn't have that punchy spark. He is definitely on the latter end of his career. He's a 3-time world champion in that race in Jersey. He just came off his 3rd world title win. And watching Hayden out sprint him for 6th place that day, we saw what we now see in Hayden Wild. He is just a competitor who, as Annie said, is passionate about what he does, loves what he does, was taking down his heroes and just enthralled by it. I think he apologised to Mario, if you recall, as he crossed the line. Sorry, but wow, I just beat Mario Mola. So I think that's the infectiousness of Hayden Wild. But I think on Mario's end, he's just a consistent, strong racer. And what I see with Mario, the problems he's going to have, or he has had in Super League racing, is the shortness of the racing. He sort of gets up to a tempo in his 10K running. He's one of the best on the planet, and he's very, very difficult to outrun over 10,000 metres. But in this 1 mile type of racing off the bike, transitions are important, position is important. He seems to put himself out of position, which he can make up in those Olympic distance events, which you just do not have the luxury of doing in Super League racing. And I expect him to be a strong player. Whether he will be at the pointy end and can match the surges and the pace, and it's that constant change in pace, I don't think so, but I would love Mario to prove me wrong. He's on my team. I think he's aware of that himself, and he's shooting for a podium finish overall in the series. And I think what we'll see out of Mario Mola is consistency across the 4 races, and consistency can accumulate a lot of points for his team and put you on the podium as an individual.
It's all about the team for you, isn't it? It always comes back to what can they do for my team. Like that. Now, in some ways, I suppose you're looking at a Mario Mola and going, okay, well, it's like making a test match cricketer who's an absolute champion and putting him in a 2020 team and asking him to do things that are a little bit different. But then you've got guys on the other end of the scale who are real wild cards in this thing. Young guys like a Vasco Velazo, like a Jonas Schomburg, Max Studer, I want to put in that one as well. And Kenji Nina is another one who has had some outstanding results in the last few months, especially, who can really turn up on the day and be a force on any given day, I suppose. Schomburg at the top end of that. Velazo we've seen having amazing results. I mean, is there a wild card athlete, not in the true sense of the word, but like in part of our contracted team, is there a guy who can just throw it out there and mix up a race from that younger crew who you guys want to point out? I mean, Andy, let's start with you. I mean, I always think we don't talk enough about Vasco Velazo, who's so good at this style of racing.
I mean, Vasco, wow, I think he's really talented. I think that perhaps he was overconfident. So he got was it the bronze or the silver in the sprint World Championships one-day event in silver in Hamburg last year. And then he did really well in Rotterdam in 2020 as well, finishing on the podium there overall. And I think another guy who's really passionate, has a really good team around him. I think he's very professional for a young athlete. And I think that we will see a lot of him in the future. Whether it happens this year, I don't know. He's got to work on his swim. I mean, he swam brilliantly in the pool in the Arena Games, but I just actually don't think we can compare the pool with open water. But yeah, I think he's a great athlete. I'm not sure if he's going to be at the pointy end of the races this year. I'd love to see it because, as I said, I think he's very professional and I think he's really talented, but I'm not sure if his time is yet. I think the young Japanese, Kenji, will be interesting to watch as well. They've never really had a really strong Japanese male athlete, and I think he's going to be really hungry for success. He's quite a confident guy. He's very vibrant. Again, loving what he does. He raced really well in Edmonton. So that could be interesting as well. But are they going to upset the top guys? I don't quite think so just yet.
What about Seth Ryder, Tim? You've got him in place for Yellow Gaines. This is a guy that finished in the top 5 in Edmonton and has got some good mixed relay form as well. Part of that Montreal winning team as well. So you must be reasonably happy with that.
Oh, more than reasonably happy. He's a top fella. He's up and coming, and he's a solid swimmer in the short races. And I think when you're kind of banking on coming out between 8th and 15th in the swim, if someone in front of you takes a little bit longer to put their shoes on, or they misjudge a corner, gaps open, and you may be stronger than them, but you're on the back foot. So someone like Seth, he's going to be top 5, top 6 out the water. And I think he'd be buzzing that he's got a contract for the whole races, for the whole SLT series, and the fact he had the race of his life in the grand final. He's going to be coming in full of confidence. Hopefully he can just take a step back, go back to what he did to get there, and to turn that. And again, lots of he'll be looking at Malibu because it's the grand final. It's back on the US soil, so he'll be building through the series, without a doubt. And Max as well. I think he's another fella, Max Struder from Switzerland. He's not as well known in the shorter stuff. But again, if these guys, and the swim start's going to be different in the first race. Normally you have kind of like the fastest swimmers start in one side and they kind of line up like that. But we're going to be starting in teams. So you might see different arrowheads coming on. And having done French Grand Prix with similar starts, you do tend to be a bit more courteous because you're like, I don't mind bashing Macca because he swims for the beetles. What's it called again? The scorpions. But you don't want to bash the eagles. So you could create some more space within your team. So some people might have better swims. At some stage in the event.
Beatles. Big band, mate. Biggest band of all time.
The Beatles.
Said that, should I? I'm gonna. That's gonna bite me in the butt.
So you got Ronnie in the Rhinos. You got Macca in the Mung Beatles. Oh dear, that doesn't sound great at all. Let's wrap this up. We're on the 45-minute mark. Wherever you are, if you're listening to this on the trainer and you want the Guppies. That's right, the Guppies. Michelle and the Guppies. Oh, the band is just going to get worse and worse. If you're on the Turbo Trainer and you want to finish up, don't worry. We've only got a couple of minutes left to go. We're going to get a podium predictions from each of our 3. I'm just going to put them on the spot. So I want top three should I say in any order? Top 3 podium getters for the men's and the women's. You don't have to pick a winner necessarily. Let's start with, who wants to start? Macca, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Top 3 men, top 3 women in London on Sunday.
On the men's side, I'm going to give it to Vince. I have a lot of faith in you, Vince. You're a pink jersey winner. This is where you shine, and you'll shine again for us. With the win, I'm going to put Alex Yee running through to grab second, just with the local being a London-based boy. And I'll give Hayden Wild, the Kiwi, a bronze. That's just off the top of my head. On the women's side, I'm going to go with Cassandra Beaugrand from the Scorpions are all over this thing. So Cassandra Beaugrand for the win. I'll give GTB a silver medal and Jess Learmonth a bronze.
Oh, wow.
And the Scorpions to win the team's points because
you can pick a massive roll of points there for the Scorpions.
The Scorpions to win the teams because of our consistency across collecting those swim points. I think we'll take all the short shoots and that will dominate the thing. And then we'll all thank the incredible management of moi and the Scorpions.
Ooh.
It's just so unlike you to make this all about yourself.
It is all about
considering you're not in any way involved in the racing. Okay. All right. Everyone gets it done for Macca. All right. What about Tim in the selfless way that you are, stepping into the background and letting the Eagles fly forth and do what they do? What are your podiums? I suppose you're going to fill them with Eagles. What do you think? Men's first.
No, I balanced podium. Yeah, I think Alex, he's going to have a stellar run on that last leg and he's going to go through for the W. Again, Vince, he's the master. He's the pink maestro. He really is. So I think he's going to be up there. Third one, I'm going to it's either Vasco or Schomburger. I'm going to go Schomburger. I want to see him have a little cheeky dig off the front in the last race and hang on. I think he'll grow in confidence. Women, Jess, I think she's going to go 1-1-1. Definitely Taylor. She's going to be right up there. And I want to say Georgia Taylor Brown, but I'm not sure, if she's going to be fully up for it. So I'm going to go with, Sophie Caldwell. And of course, then I think then that means the Eagles win by 3 points.
All right. So.
Wow.
Just doing a quick spot of maths there. The Eagles win by 3 points. Everyone's very biased towards their team, completely colouring their predictions. Annie, you're going to be just as bad. The floor is yours.
Oh my goodness me! I know I've always been accused of sitting on the fence, but this is a tough one because I don't think we're going to see the dominance that we've seen in previous Super League series. I can see you rolling your eyes there, Macca, but I think that's going to be the case. I think this one is going to be quite open. I'm going to put Sophie Caldwell up there. I think she's going to love racing in London. I'm going to put a bit of an outsider in. I'm going to put Leonie Perriot in there. I know she's a cheater, but I think she's in great form and running really, really quick at the moment. And I'm going to say, who else am I going to say? Oh, Georgia Taylor Brown. No, I'm going to change it. Jess Learmonth. I'm changing my mind. Jess Learmonth. So Jess.
In that order.
Jess. No, we didn't have to give orders. Jess, Sophie, and Leonie Perriot. But not in any order.
Are you just going to ignore the men, or
you want me to do the men? Well, there's a men's race as well. Okay. Right. Did you guys do the men anyway? I'm so involved with myself.
You to us.
She never listens to us.
Hanging on every word.
That is true.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Jonathan Brownlee's going to be up there. I'm going to go with Vince up there, and I'm going to go with Hayden Wild.
Good picks.
Solid.
Good picks.
Okay. Everyone's very similar, and not a single person has picked Katie Zafiris, the most successful female athlete, to end up on the podium at all. So that's an interesting one. And just for context, if anyone's just tuned in at the back end, doesn't understand the team concepts, when Annie says Leonie Perriot is a cheater, that means that she's on team cheaters. Okay? Okay? We must point that out. Okay, it's very important. A very important point. And that brings us to the end of the Short Shoot Show, where we have previewed what's going to come up in West India Key in London on Sunday. Now, all the details, the broadcast details, where you can watch, how you can get there if you want to spectate, how you get involved, everything is on superleaguetriathlon.com. Thank you very much, Macca. Thank you, Annie. And thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Nice. See you in London.
See you in London. London town is calling.
Yeah. London Calling. Good song.